clown outfits trying to lure children into the woods with candy.
It sounds like a plotline out of some horror movie, but people in Greenville in an apartment complex there say this is happening to them. Brianna Smith spoke with the family who saw them first, so she's joining us live now in Greenville County at the Sheriff's Office with more. Brianna?
Amy, the sheriff's office has been working for over a week now to try and substantiate those claims that there were clowns in those woods, and so far they haven't been able to. But they're taking this really seriously, stepping up patrols and making sure that all the children there are safe.
They're at that tree back there.
Nat Arnold's mom is watching over him a little closer these days.
This is ridiculous. We got kids out here in this community.
That's after he came running home, saying he'd seen something strange in these woods.
One of them has all white face with black stars on around his eyes, and then one of them has a clown costume on and has red hair.
Clowns hidden through the trees.
There was clowns running in the woods telling the kids that they had candy and they would give it to them if they came there.
And while the story sounds too strange to be true,
It sounds far-fetched. It sounds like it's really out there, but I don't believe it. I believe it's true because there's too many sightings.
the Arnolds soon learned that they weren't the only ones on edge.
Turn around the next day, I had about 30 kids come and say, Miss Donna, there's clowns in the woods, there's clowns in the woods. And then it's just been every day since.
Fleetwood Manor wouldn't go on camera, but they tell me they've heard from dozens of people who live here, all with different stories about the clowns. That's why they've asked the Greenville County Sheriff's Office to do extra patrols, just in case something happens.
Now that people can carry concealed weapons on campus, many members of University of Houston LGBTQ community believe that they can no longer express themselves. A 22-year-old transgender and intersex student, Robin Foley, told BuzzFeed News that, "I feel like I can't speak up for myself anymore." The anthropology major, whose pronoun is they, continued, saying, "I can't correct someone on my pronouns," they continued to say. "I can't stand up for my transgender friends, because if I do and someone gets pissed off, all they have to do is pull out a gun."
More than 300 reindeer have been killed by a single lightning strike at a Norwegian national park. Pictures released by the Norwegian Environment Agency on Sunday show 323 carcasses scattered across a small, isolated area in Hardangervidda National Park. The plateau-like park in south-central Norway is home to Europe's largest herds of wild reindeer, according to its website. One of the agency's inspectors discovered the dead animals over the weekend after a storm passed through. Spokesperson Kjartan Knutsen told CNN, "Wild animals are occasionally struck by lightning, but the agency has never seen so many killed at once."
Cataloging the atrocities committed by the so-called Islamic State group in Syria and Iraq is a difficult, sometimes impossible task. A new report from the Associated Press attempts to document the mass graves holding some of the group's victims. The AP found 72 mass grave sites around Syria and Iraq. One of the sites held as many as 1,700 bodies. For more, we're joined by Associated Press reporter Lori Hinnant, one of the authors of the investigation. Lori, thank you for joining us. 72 mass grave sites. How were you and your colleagues able to find them and document them?
Well, we used a variety of sources. We first went to Iraqi Kurdistan, where there are at least 35 mass graves on Sinjar Mountain alone, most of them holding the bodies of the minority Yazidi. We also talked to the Kurdish regional government, who told us of at least two others, one outside Mosul at a prison where 600 to 800 inmates were killed, and another in a deep natural geological pit.
Talal Murat is one of the fortunate ones who have escaped the Islamic State group's brutal onslaught against the Yazidi minority in northern Iraq. When IS fighters descended on his uncle's farm near the Sinjar Mountains, the message was clear: convert to Islam or die.
One of them started to ask, "Who wants to be a Muslim?" He repeated that once or twice, and no one accepted. He said, "Come on outside."
IS fighters separated the men from the women and children.
There were too many of us there, so they forced some of us to lie down on the ground. And it was then my uncle told us to run because they were going to kill all of us.
Murat fled to safety, hearing distant gunfire as the male members of his family were shot to death. The area around the Sinjar Mountains is dotted with mass graves from IS's attack on the Yazidis. The Associated Press has documented 72 such burial sites containing up to 15,000 bodies.
A volcano in Mexico is spewing a large column of gas and ash more than 2.5 kilometers into the sky. The fire volcano, or Colima Volcano, as it's officially known, is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Mexico contains more than 1,000 volcanoes, but only 14 are considered active. The country has seen at least 3 major eruptions in the last century.
Is ET trying to phone home? Well, that's what some scientists in Mountain View are trying to figure out right now after a mysterious signal from a distant star was reported. Night Beat's Betty Yu takes us inside the search for life beyond Earth.
These giant antennae, located about 300 miles northeast of San Francisco, are searching for ET in the constellation Hercules, seen here on a live camera. And astronomers at the SETI Institute in Mountain View are trying to make sense of the data coming in.
Tonight we're going to be very systematic about checking out the entire radio dial over which the Russians claim to have found the signal. So if that signal is still there, and if it's for real, then we have a good chance of finding it tonight.
Some Russian astronomers found a signal coming from the direction of a star about 95 light years away. That's what, 600 trillion miles or thereabouts. That looked like it might be really a transmission from ET. Maybe that's worth following up. So that's what we've been busy with for the past couple of days, actually. Picking up a signal is not an unusual thing. But this one was found by some Russian astronomers who are very competent. They found it in the direction of a star system that was intrinsically interesting because it was known to have a planet. So, of course, we're going to follow up on a signal like that. Could it be an extraterrestrial ping? Are they trying to get in touch for some reason? Well, I mean, you can't rule that out.
Police busted suspected pimps in a big crackdown on human trafficking. They say the suspects lured young women and forced them into prostitution. Some of the victims are minors. CBS 2's Dave Lopez has more on the crackdown and who else police are now targeting.
For potential customers who once frequented Sepulveda and Lancashire in the valley looking for prostitutes, an area known for that activity, the LAPD has this message.
Not only will we continue to target pimps very aggressively, we'll target the Johns and anybody, any pervert that comes to this community to try and find a prostitute.
And in the last 10 months in that area, here's what a special task force has done. 21 arrests for pimping and pandering, 177 Johns arrested, and 79 vehicles used by the Johns impounded.
It's always been uncomfortable to see the prostitution issue here.
Chris Martinez has lived in this neighborhood for the past 22 years. The biggest difference, she says, the age of the young girls working the streets.
And I am a new mom, so for me it's very impacting to see that.
It is absolutely unacceptable to have 13-year-old girls in this country and any part of our city trafficked for money.
But that's exactly what was happening. City Council member Nuri Martinez was able to budget $1 million for the special 20-officer task force. She grew up here. She said she'd seen enough, along with the people who live here.
I hope someday my daughter does not ever have to face this.
These are pictures of 3 suspects in custody arrested for pimping and pandering. And these are the pictures of 3 others wanted for pimping and pandering. The LAPD says they're tracking them all down. According to police, one of the working girls was 13, another was 14, and many, they say, have tattoos branded as though they're personal property.
Disturbing new video tonight from inside a city homeless shelter. Also, a man who says he was beaten for complaining about the conditions. Both could be seen as reasons why many homeless people won't set foot in shelters. CBS 2's Tracy Carrasco has more.
This homeless encampment on West 38th Street in Midtown Manhattan, significantly smaller from these photos earlier this month, but still overtaking this neighborhood, according to residents.
It just kept growing and growing, and then now you're seeing like 10 people there.
Chairs, suitcases, boxes, and even a woman using the restroom on the street. Some say they're here because it's their only option.
But they always keep telling you, well, we still looking for a place for you. We're going to try to put you in a 2-man apartment. They go on and on with this. I told you I was out here since the winter.
Or because the streets are better than the alternative.
Safe in the streets, yeah. I got family out here. You know what I mean? I don't
like shelters because I got beat up too many times.
They all agree and say they're not rushing into shelters like this. Dirty toilets, broken tiles, garbage-strewn facilities documented at the New Dawn homeless shelter in Harlem.
Disturbing trend involving marine life in New Jersey. First, Keansburg. Now, 2 other locations have turned into hotspots for dead and awful-smelling fish. CBS 2's Meg Baker tells us what is causing the problem.
Take a closer look at the white specks floating in the Atlantic Highlands marina. It is small fish killed off by the lack of oxygen in the water. Captain Tom with the Atlantic Star has worked these docks since 1975.
Not this bad. This was a big one.
Others say they smelled it before they saw it.
The water was completely covered. At first, when I saw the pictures, I thought it was packing peanuts.
Not packing peanuts, but peanut bunker chased into the marina by their predator bluefish. The fish panic and swim into small condensed areas.
But it was something sight to see.
Unfortunately, they suffocate and die, and the reason why is because low dissolved oxygen. So fish need to breathe just like humans.
More than 200,000 dead bunkerfish in Keansburg and the Atlantic Highlands. Further south in Little Egg Harbor, 10 to 12,000 dead fish were found in man-made lagoons.
Really out there, but I don't believe it. I believe it's true because there's too many sightings.
The Arnolds soon learned that they weren't the only ones on edge.
Turn around the next day, I had about 30 kids come and say, Miss Donna, there's clowns in the woods, there's clowns in the woods. And then it's just been every day since.
Fleetwood Manor wouldn't go on camera.
Clown outfits trying to lure children into the woods with candy.
It sounds like a plotline out of some horror movie, but people in Greenville in an apartment complex there say this is happening to them. Brianna Smith spoke with the family who saw them first, so she's joining us live now in Greenville County at the Sheriff's Office with more. Brianna?
Amy, the Sheriff's Office has been working for over a week now to try and substantiate those claims that there were clowns in those woods, and so far they haven't been able to. But they're taking this really seriously, stepping up patrols and making sure that all the children...
His eyes, and then one of them has a clown costume on and has red hair.
Clowns hidden through the trees.
There was clowns running in the woods telling the kids that they had candy and they would give it to them if they came down.
And while the story sounds too strange to be true,
it sounds far-fetched. It sounds like it's...
Children there are safe.
They're at that tree back there.
Nat Arnold's mom is watching over him a little closer these days.
This is ridiculous. We got kids out here in this community.
That's after he came running home, saying he'd seen something strange in these woods.
One of them has all white face with black stars on around.